watching us and sending in questions. So we're trying to be at least a bit inclusive. We have a question from Debo Ademoyo, who is asking, what are your policy ideas on climate change? Do you have a plan for ensuring sustainability in a new government? So that's one question. Then there was a joint question from Miss Etty and Zindi Anthony Levy, and they're asking, insecurity is a major problem. What are your plans in tackling this? What are your plans in terms of security sector reform in Nigeria? I'm going to take two more physical questions in the room. The lady right in the front here. So I'm not going to discriminate with the front rows. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Chi Chikwendo. I'm a practicing solicitor here, advocating, of course, for rule of law. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the inspiring exposition on your vision for policy change and institutional reforms. It seems to me that it's clear from that if and when elected president, your transformation vision to increase the production capabilities across the various sectors mentioned, including agriculture, extraction industries, human resources, will, to a large extent, hinge on the depth of your level of commitment with solidarity and ownership to implement the proposed policy changes and institutional reforms. However, there is no doubt in my mind that Your Excellency is well aware of the prevailing fundamental challenges to those reforms, including clientele patronage, political capture, and the institutionalized corruption that you mentioned. So the question is, how do you intend to navigate these challenges differently from the efforts of previous administrations, particularly with a view to modifying the behaviors of the key players in support of achieving those anticipated outcomes? And I was very warmed when you mentioned you're broadening the scope of youth inclusion and women based on gender issues. So further, how do you intend to quell the current ethnic tensions ravaging our communities and consequently stagnating economic growth and development, and to implement a pragmatic mechanism for dealing with those societal concerns for equal...
Okay, please. We need... The longer this takes, the less questions. Madam, please, yes. Now.
So the question there is, how do you intend to implement a pragmatic mechanism for dealing with those societal concerns for equal access to the services, inclusive participation, and integrating the various ethnic groups? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter, if you answer those questions, because that was more than one question.
Well, let me start with the issue of, you have, like you said, you have more than one question. I have about two questions. Let me start with the issue of ethnic tension. The ethnic tension you see today is based and as a result of injustice, unfairness, exclusion, marginalization. As soon as you start reversing that, they start going down. That is what I said to the young man about agitation. As long as you start doing the right things, as long as you start building an inclusive society where people's talent, hard work will match up their opportunity, you start seeing those things go down. There's tension, even in the Western world here. I lived here when the blacks feel excluded. But as the more the government opens up and tolerates and builds an inclusive, transparent, more broad-based, acceptable, they will come down. And we will show, I've said before, we will show compassion. We will show love. Because there's nothing, you're a leader. Don't go away when Bayelsa is under the water. Don't leave Jigawa to die. Don't say, oh, I cannot go to Southern Kaduna because there's a problem. We will show compassion. We will lead from the front. We're not going to walk away. And for me, Borno is part of Nigeria. I don't want to say people, oh, the region is insecure. Nigeria is insecure. Like I told the IDP people in Christmas, I spent my IDP with IDP people in Makurdi in Christmas. And in New Year was another IDP camp in Abuja. And I said to them, As long as Nigerians are in IDP, all of us are in IDP. I will not allow, and I know that you will not allow it, for any Nigerian to remain in IDP while we're sleeping in our mansions. Never. They must go back. On issue of challenges and dealing with them, the challenges you foresee are there with such challenges at the Anambra level. And I'll show you the same challenges. We're not going to, as long as you're not involved in this transnational governance, you can deal with anybody. And we're not going to compromise. We have an issue, I said, we're at an existential threat that we don't need to. There's nobody, there's no sacred cow. You either be a Nigerian or you can find another country. We have a country with the rule of law. It will be the same level playing field for everybody. I want to solve the problem. For example, I said it without equivocation. I must pull out the poverty that is devastating the north. The vast land in the north is far more in terms of assets and source of revenue generation and exports for Nigeria than the oil. It's very simple. And I give you an example of one state that I use every day. Niger State is 76,000 square kilometers. Precisely 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. 7 local governments in that state is under control of bandits. I've tried to interview them because they have no job. They have nothing and everything. Niger State is 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. And Netherlands agricultural export last year was $120 billion. Why can't Niger State do 5% of that? They have arable land. And all they get from the revenue, from the sharing, which is the consumption, is less than 50 billion naira. When they have minus their debts and everything. If they earn 6% of 5% of that is $6 billion. At 650, it's about 4 trillion. 80 times what they get from here. We will change it. Somebody talked about tackling insecurity. I've said it extensively. It is our first commitment to first secure Nigeria. Securing Nigeria is not impossible. I secured Anambra State as governor. And it won't be different. I've said we will deal and talk with those we will win, we will talk with those who are winnable. It will be carrot and stick. And those who don't, we will deal with them. We're not going to shy away. Nigeria must be secured. It's a country. Every country must be secured. But we are not going to walk away from the problem. We'll deal with it. We have our armies and military used to secure Africa. So this is time to go back and resonate that spirit in which they used to secure Africa to secure Nigeria. And we will deal with it. On climate change, I've always said we'll follow the protocol. And I did mention here about issue of things like planting trees, issues of dredging. These are some of the climate change issues because as you see today, we have a situation where there's flooding in Nigeria because we've not dredged River Niger, River Benue and everything. And I've said it consistently. This is not difficult. We've awarded contracts for it in the past. Today, every Egyptian will tell you, no Nile, no Egypt. They have used it to improve the water transportation, which dredging this one will do. And that's along fighting climate change. They've used it for other means, which we will use the same River Niger and River Benue to do. River Niger and River Benue combined River Niger is 4,200 kilometers long. River Nile is 1,400. River Benue is 1,400 long. So two of them are 5,600. Nile is 6,650. If Egypt, an African country, can dredge, maintain River Nile, Nigeria is big enough to deal with this, and we'll deal with it. And I assure you, you see the difference. It will be clear. Other protocols of climate change will follow it. Where we find difficult, we'll negotiate and talk with other involved in that. We are signatory to it, and it's devastating the world today. So we must